the Rangers Journal now.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Journal. My name's Scott Mackay, and I'm your host for this evening. I've been joined by two hours a night, actually. We've got Ross and Ricky. Ross, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, Scotty, mate. How's yourself?
Aye, hanging together, pal, hanging together. Ricky, how you doing, pal?
I'm fine, Scott. Just good to sort of clarify that Scott Mackay. I'm Ricky Mackay. Do you spell your name with an MC or MAC?
MC, mate.
Oh, I'm saying, yeah.
Aye, I'm English way.
Good evening, lads. Yeah, I'm looking forward to tonight we chat and see where the kind of the chat takes us to.
Cool. Right. Well, I thought we would speak about takeover scenarios because of the kind of unrest about the club. Dave King's poking his nose in again. John Gilligan's in charge. We've got another update for John Gilligan tonight, which, fair play, I'm more than happy with that our chairman's actually coming out and speaking to us. He spoke to his own video. He spoke to his via statement. Neil Scotland's come out, done an interview with RTV and Rangers Review. More than happy with the communication of the club. I think that's something that they're working on to improve. And then there was the news that broke last week that Craig Robertson's leaving. So there's basically a skeleton there that needs some bones put in it. And I thought, there's different types of takeovers, there's different types of ownership in football these days. So what one would be the best case scenario for Rangers? Ross, I'll come to you first on it. What's your thoughts on it overall?
Well, like you say, we're almost into the bare bones. I says before that I think next week John Gilligan's going to be out putting cones out and selling pies because we'll not get any staff left. You know what I mean? It's kind of, I think we've lost Ricky. It's just getting a bit kind of it's sad. Do you know what I mean? But we need to keep going. At least, you know, John Gilligan stepped in. He says that I think it's George Latham as well stepped up, and they seem to be kind of running the day-to-day part of the club, which at least we've got something. But it was a good statement today by him. I think he didn't tell us anything that we didn't already know, but he was in a lose-lose situation because if he doesn't say anything, they're saying, why is he not telling us what's going on? And if he does, then he's telling us stuff we know. So, you know, you've got to kind of take it face value.
Aye, definitely, mate, definitely. I think it's an important subject that we need to cover because when Craig Robertson was announced that he was leaving, then the rumours did start as this Rangers stripping everything back for a potential takeover coming in, wasn't it? What was your thoughts to the initial rumours?
I mean, we've been talking about takeovers for years. I think we always like this idea that there's going to be some mental Saudi's going to come in and give us hundreds of millions to spend. It's not going to happen. I think we're probably the only club in the world that you would think we're getting primed for a takeover, and then we don't get a takeover. I think the board are kind of set in their ways, but you know we can talk about it. But I don't know in terms of what the future holds. But the club needs to sort itself out first before we even start thinking about that in the long term.
Aye, definitely. Paul's come in with a quick question. Well, we're waiting on Ricky as well answering that. Do you guys think we'll stay with Castor? If we do, then they need to double what they're currently paying us. We helped to make them in football. I think that's a very decent statement towards the end. We did help make them in football. They're new kit owners of Newcastle kit providers, Newcastle, Wolves, various teams down south. Would you be happy to stay with Castor? For me, I would really, really want to see Rangers change.
I would like to. I mean, so to kind of go against you, they've actually lost Newcastle and they've lost Wolves and they've lost Aston Villa. Put a lot of stuff into the clubs, but I don't think they could keep up with the demand or the quality. There was issues with the Aston Villa quality of kit. I remember the players moaning about it. I mean, but we made Castor into a kind of sportswear brand, like in terms of, you know, within mainstream sports. They've got a lot of things outside it. They do a lot of I think it's rugby league teams they've got as well. They've got the England cricket team. They've been good to us. I know there's been issues with quality and things, but they have been good to us. But we would be doing ourselves a disservice if we're now at the end of a 5-year deal that we weren't putting the contract out to tender. Rangers jerseys sell money. So, and I think that now the Puma stuff's over with, the Hummel stuff's over and done with. I think it's probably a more attractive proposition for other companies to want to come in and maybe take over it.
I definitely, mate. I can't really disagree with any of that. I would like to see one of the major players come in and sponsor a Rangers kit because it's been too long to me, hasn't it?
I mean, I'm old school, right? I think Rangers should have an Umbro tap, and at least in Castor own the licence into Umbro. So if we went Umbro, I'd be all right with that. I just think that I know we've had a few good Nike tops and a good few Adidas tops, but Rangers and Umbro for me is just
stuck with you.
Aye, always think about the good ones. Think about some of the good teams. and it's Umbro. Even the good Walter team, his second spell, Umbro.
Aye, you had the Diadora tap under Big Egg as well. That was the last time we won a treble, wasn't it?
We made that was made in house. That was basically made in house on the cheap, and Diadora paid to put their name on it.
I know, it's wild. Right, so on to takeovers. What is a takeover? So, a football takeover is when a new entity, such as an individual or private company, gains control of a football club. The new owner is responsible for making strategic decisions to drive the club forward. So examples would be Chelsea in 2022, when that crackpot Todd Bowley and private equity firm Clear Lake Capital took over Chelsea for 4.25 billion, mental money. Arsenal, American Stan Kroenke acquired 9.9% in 2007, became majority shareholder in 2011, assumed 100% ownership in 2018. I think he's done all right by them. Wrexham, this is a funny one. In November 2020, Canadian-American actor Ryan Reynolds and American actor Rob McElhenney, through their R.R. McReynolds Company, LLC, bought the club. The deal received the backing of 98.6 of the 2,000 members of the Wrexham Supporters Trust and voted and was completed in February 2021. So, what's your thoughts on that definition of a takeover, Ross?
Well, obviously, there's different levels of it there. The first one, Chelsea, it was a complete takeover, but I think that was more circumstantial because of the issues with Abramovich in Russia and Ukraine. He was basically forced to sell by the British government, and I think at the time it was between the Americans that we spoke about, Todd Bowley, Clear Lake, and I think the other one was Jim Ratcliffe, who obviously now has a significant share in Manchester United, were the two that wanted to buy them. You can talk about what you think about it. I don't think it's been a particularly good buy for Chelsea. They seem to have stabilised a little bit this season, but they've been a bit of a disaster, to be honest with you. The Arsenal one, I think the Arsenal support have had a little bit of an issue with Stan Kroenke over the years, but he's helped build them back up again. And the Wrexham one's just been a total vanity project. I think anyway. And he's made Wrexham far more relevant than they're ever going to be. Apologies if there's any Wrexham supporters watching.
I think it's a case of they put a lot of money and stuff into the community as well. So Riggy will be back. His laptop's doing an update. He'll be back soon. I think Wrexham have done an awful lot in the community, and they seem to be what you see on Netflix and Amazon Prime and all that kind of stuff. It seems to be in the hearts are in the right place. I mean, they don't look as if they're in it to make money, can they? They can't really be making money. Let's be honest about it.
How much money can you make out of it? Do you know what I mean? And I think the Wrexham thing, it's a great story, and you see what Wrexham as a community and as a town's been like, and those two superstars have went in there and made it something. But I think there's maybe a ceiling towards it. I know they're doing well in I think they're League One at the moment. Could they make the Championship? Maybe. I think the Premier League, whilst it might be the long-term aim, is maybe just a step too far. But you never know. Stranger things have happened in football over the last kind of 20 years.
See out all them. What would you prefer to see, Ross? Because you've got Chelsea, you've got Todd Bowley, he's come in and he's just lost a rag. I don't think that guy's a full shilling, if I'm being honest. Then you've got a guy who is already an investor, and at Arsenal, he's assumed 100% ownership. And then you've got two celebrities that have come in and taken over a club and just ploughed money in. But one do you think would be best suited to Rangers?
I mean, it's hard to say because they've all got good points and bad points. I think it's something you would say that if we were going to get bought by another owner, it would be by Chelsea, who are probably the one club in the world that's run worse than we are. Do you know what I mean? That would sum us up. Do you know what I mean? I think Chelsea, they've just had a lot of money, and I think that's a problem with some of the American owners. And I know the three we're talking about there are all American owners. I don't think they fully understand European football. They've tried to turn European football into British style, into American style franchising. The MLS doesn't even have a relegation in it. That's the kind of thing that we're kind of we want to avoid in European football, I think. I mean, the Wrexham one, do we really want to have Amazon or Netflix in the training ground every week? That would just be, it'd be good to watch, but I don't really think that's what you want. You don't want cameras poking around and seeing all the ins and outs of your club. I just don't think it's right. That's
fair. I would, for one, love to see a typical day in a and the Rangers right enough, but that's just me. That's just me. It should be with kept to Rangers standards right enough. Ricky, how you doing, mate? Is everything all right?
Well, sorry about that, guys. I said, literally just looking forward to it, and a screen pop said it was going to update my computer. So I tried to get rid of it, and it just automatically closed down and did about 5 upgrades. Just this perfect timing. So apologies for that. So I was panicking a bit. But yeah, I was listening to on YouTube, and I didn't actually miss much.
All right, okay. I was just asking Rossi about these three kind of examples. So Chelsea, you've got Todd Bowley's come in for 4.25 billion and flung millions and hundreds of millions of pounds at Chelsea, probably into billions now. You've got Arsenal, who have had a minor shareholder turn into a majority shareholder, and then you've got two celebrities who have come in, and to me, Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney have done a good job at Wrexham because they put money into the community, they've rebuilt their stadium stands and stuff like that. But one of these three would you like to see come into Rangers if possible?
Well, each three are fraught with danger anyway, because you've got the kind of 4 types of a takeover, whether it be private, partnership, mixed, or public. And I can give you examples names. I did a wee bit of studying this today.
Okay.
A private partnership is basically Chelsea with Abramovich, which basically he funded everything that Chelsea had, didn't take anything from the club, so everything was rosy under Abramovich until, as Ross had mentioned earlier on, everything went wrong with the government, and because of the oligarch things, you had to give up all that, and this is when Bowley came in, and we all understand that. But if you look at the other side of that kind of model, you had the Mashiri at Everton. Now, he came in and spent millions, £360 million out of his own pocket, and it all went wrong. So where in the one hand, Abramovich type ownership worked for Chelsea, it didn't for Everton. So you really had to be careful what you wish for when you get these sugar daddies coming in, because when they walk away, another couple of examples, Peter Coates at Stoke, him and Bet365, I think it is, he owns, again lost millions of his own money when things started to go down the pan. Dave Whelan at Wigan, Jack Walker at Blackburn, these were all successful clubs, whilst those individual sugar daddies were in charge of that club. So the outcome of having a sugar daddy, for me, there's always going to be the downside to it, because there's not one of these clubs have sustained where they were under those individuals, because eventually they will move on, they'll die, they'll whatever, they'll lose interest. So that Chelsea kind of private model, if you like, isn't a great model, I don't think, as much as we'd love a sugar daddy. The other one was the partner ownership. Now that's your kind of Real Madrid, where there's lots of people invest. They're all members, and I think Rangers probably fall into this category as well. But the members elect a president, and we all know that. And the president acts on behalf of all the wealthy members of that particular football club. And I think Rangers are probably in there, although we don't have a president, we do have a chairman who makes the decision. So I would say that's who we kind of fall at the moment. Under the mixed one, this is a typical German sort of a scenario where it's 50+1. So there's nobody ever can take control of that club. It's owned by the fans. The other 49% is all wealthy people can plough in and buy as many shares as they want, but they'll never ever dictate what goes on in that club because it's privately owned by the members, i.e. the supporters. Germans have had that model for many, many years, and really might not be as financially successful as your big English clubs or your, Paris Saint-Germain, that type thing. They're still a very successful outfit because it's a very good football league. And lastly, as your Celtics, your Manchester United with their PLCs, that again can be a good model. If you look at Celtic at the moment, they are ran reasonably well, or we're led to believe they ran reasonably well. Manchester United not so much, but so the Man United Celtic sort of scenario gives you an idea that it doesn't always work. You can look at it. Brighton as a good example of how well a run club they are under Tony Bloom. They have got structure bang on right. The recruitment is amazing, and they just make millions after millions after millions through the player training model. That is the perfect club scenario for me. But what one of those 4 would I like to see? I'm not sure, but I don't know whether I'd like to go down the line of the sugar daddy based on when they walk away, you're in a lot of trouble.
Aye, definitely. I think there's a lot to say about financial fair play and stuff like that as well. You just need to look at Man City and the courts, etc. Just now, I just want to answer Rod Winbaw's comment. Dreaming of takeovers is madness. Need to get back to sorting the club. That should be the big talking point. Well, that's actually what we're talking about. We're talking about if we're going to sort a club or not. Because if you listen to what we're saying is we're talking about what types of takeover are going to suit the club. If it's to go there, should the scenario come about, that's what we're talking about, mate. We're not talking about Tim's on a wind up, etc., etc. Your comments are mental, right? So types of takeover. Let's have a look at Rangers ownership first. So we've got 14.12% to a company, 11.74% to Douglas Park, 9.85% to George Alexander Taylor, 9.84% to Stuart Gibson, yada yada yada. You get the drift. Ross, Dave King said when he was setting Rangers up again, basically in 2015, that he wanted to set us up so that not one person could buy a club. Do you think that's right? What's your thoughts on it?
I understand at the time the thinking behind it, and you can see obviously with the breakdown there that obviously the 14.12 new wages is Dave King. That's Dave King's company. Dave King is the largest kind of significant shareholder at Rangers. Him, Pat, Taylor, none of them own the club, so they can't go and do what basically they don't want to do what Craig White done and have 100% of the club and completely tear it apart. But the idea at the time totally made sense because we had just had everything ripped. Basically, they were taking the tables away and everything. They'd had the whole thing stripped for the club. So it came from a good place. And I still think that the people that are on the board, you see George Taylor, Stuart Gibson, John Bennett are good businessmen. But I don't think at the moment you can see there's not enough influence with one shareholder to make proper decisions. And I think that's where there's been an issue, is there's a lack of leadership because there's too many small guys making the decisions that I don't think they're all on the same page.
Aye, that's fair. Ricky, it's a weird setup, isn't it? Because I don't actually know how many of these people are on the Rangers board. I know Douglas Park's on it, but John Bennett was previously on it. He's not anymore. I know he's still having a safe background, but see, when you look at it, is it? I know George Taylor's on it as well, isn't he? Is he?
Well, it does look a little bit of a confusing slide, how you're breaking it down. I mean, there's shares all over the place. I mean, I don't know exactly how much percentage those shares that are probably not in that slide make up the 100%. But I mean, you look at George Latham's there, but Gilligan isn't there, although he's a chairman or temporary chairman at the moment. And I read the other day, and I don't know how true it is, that man's put in £23 million of his own money. I mean, please correct me if I've read that wrong, but I'm very surprised to see he's not somewhere in that slide there, Scott, if that's the kind of money he's invested into our club. But, you know, I think, you know, when you look at the kind of the upheaval we have at the moment with the CEO job vacant, a director of football leaving in a couple of months' time. Why are they leaving the club? You know, Bisco went over to Saudi Arabia, we get that. But why are they leaving the club? Is it because, you know, Latham and Gilligan know that there's going to be some sort of investment coming from the Middle East? You know, we heard about the Japan, quite a couple of wealthy Scotsmen over there, Rangers supporters, grabbing in all these kind of people who are supposedly want to invest in Rangers. You've got the girl Kyle Fox in America. We a crowd of investors over there who want to invest in Rangers. And I don't have a problem with anybody investing with Rangers, but they need to invest in Rangers because they have interest in Rangers, not because they want to use Rangers as a business. Otherwise, it'll be another Mike Ashley. You know, so we have to be careful who's going to come in. And, you know, the Newcastle fans will tell you when Ashley was the chairman at that club, he was destroying it. You know, they want to watch when the Saudis come in and bought them, or the UAE guys, whatever it was, who bought them. And they want to watch when they, get rid of Ashley. So we have to be careful. I think we do need the men at the top of our board, Rangers men. They are good businessmen. They're good, successful businessmen. But investment, so that they people who are going to invest in their club don't dictate the future of our club, because that could be going down a kind of a road where we might not be in control of. Your Mike Ashley scenario, which none of us Rangers fans want. We can maybe just take us another wee sort of a conversation a little bit to the right, and do the rename Ibrox when these people come in to whatever it may be. I mean, how many Rangers fans would be up for renaming Ibrox? All the big English clubs have already renamed their stadiums because it all brings money in. But maybe we just, we need to sort of think about that. And is that something we're going to have to sort of consider? Should we take these investors on with their own demands? I don't know what your thoughts on that, boys. If these boys from America or Asia do come in and want X, Y, and Z, do we sort of allow that X, Y, and Z to happen because it's going to generate money? I don't know. Yeah, I think the way we are, with the lack of money that we get through Scottish football, and it is severely lacking compared to the major leagues, then we have to consider all our options so that we can stay afloat. We're not just the 5 major leagues, but I'm on about the next tier down. Your Portugals and your that kind of level, because we can't afford to go down to be your kind of, dare I say it, your Welsh and your Irish leagues, because that would just kill Scottish football. We need to be able to compete with the next tier down, and the only way we can do that is getting investment into the club, in my opinion, anyway.
If Ross Ricky brings up a really good point before we go on to the next part of the pod. I'm wondering how to word this. Now, I believe Scottish football, like Ricky's just said, should be managing to compete on the fronts of Holland, Portugal. How they're getting these lucrative TV deals. They're 2 obvious ones to compare us to, but even countries
Belgium.
like Denmark, Belgium, they've probably raking in more money than us for winning the league. I think it's fair to say, through better sponsorship through the league. How do we get the powers that be to up their game a wee bit, instead of accepting a 10-year contract off a Sky Sports on £2 a week? How do we sell our game better? Who does that come down to?
It comes down to, I think, a little bit of all parties. I don't think the clubs at times help themselves, and that includes the Old Firm. I think Rangers and Celtic both have wanted to keep the way things are because it allows them to get the better TV money. Because if you get the league structure we've got, you get the 4 Old Firm games. That's why Sky give us the money they do. As much small as it is, if you only played each other twice a season, you'd get less money. Excuse me. But I think the SFA, I know it's an easy cliche to say, the SFA have been a big problem in terms of wanting to bring smarter guys into the organisation to try and improve the quality of the game overall. We've just come off, we're in the middle of an international break where the 2 Scotland games were shown on YouTube because the BBC or STV, either they didn't want it or they couldn't agree a deal to show it. Do you know what I mean? That's right. If you can't even show that, then what chance have you got? We've got the league sponsored by vodka, or it's been sponsored by bookmakers, but you're trying to kick gambling out of football, but you're willing to take on any sponsor that's willing to throw money at you. I think that's a part of it, that I think they're not very good at selling the game. They're just happy to take whatever they can, and that stems from the guys, no standards. And I don't want to blame them, but it's very easy to look at the guys in charge of the SFA. You've got a guy there that's got a 2-year notice period. He's getting $400,000 a year in Neil Doncaster, and he's not very good at his job. He's quite simply not good at his job. You've got McLennan, who runs the SFA as well. We've got so many issues with the way that the organisation sells their game before you get the clubs who are very good at just kind of cutting their nose off to spite their face because they don't like another team. They don't like Rangers. They don't like Celtic. They don't like Hearts. They don't like whatever. And it's one until everybody can come together and agree on something, we're not going to get anywhere. We're just going to be bashing our heads against the wall because it's not going to change because everybody wants different things. So it doesn't really matter. It's not going to change until they're willing to change.
I mean, definitely, mate. Ricky, I want to ask you about the TV deal. Paul's brought up a really, really good point here. I'm talking about the TV deal for the league, right? Obviously, we're hamstrung by Sky just now. Like Ross says there, we've got Neil Doncaster on a 2-year notice period, earning 400 grand a year that we know of. Now, Amazon's showing Premier League matches in the last few years. BT are still kicking about. Premier Sports are still there. Apple's now got a telly channel. Why are we not looking to sell our game out with or keeping our game in-house in every club selling a package to their own support?
Well, I think if you listen to Simon Jordan, he spoke at this maybe 3 months ago in Talk Sport, where he believes that the way ahead for all the clubs should be for you to take control of your own destiny, i.e. Rangers TV. Rangers TV can only be bought outside of Scotland. So, this 3 p.m. sort of a kick-off, sort of a black hole that you're not allowed to... I mean, that can be addressed and looked at. There's all lots of things that we could do, but ultimately, and Ross is absolutely bang on, our game isn't really sellable out with the Old Firm outside our shores. Maybe the Edinburgh Derby, maybe Aberdeen against any of the sort of the four I just mentioned there. So to get... Years ago, potentially, we maybe missed the boat, Scott, and it's very controversial, and it's all right me down in England saying I'd love to have seen Rangers join the English Premiership. That was never going to happen initially because there's lots of red tape to go through, but we had an opportunity in 2012 to relocate as people have relocated. We've got Welsh teams playing in English Premiership or English, so it's not impossible, but we'd have to have started at a lower level. We would be there by now, and we wouldn't be having these conversations about this, that, and the next thing. We would be under ownership of, because we are a very, very attractive club to any investor. We just don't play in the right league. Rossi mentioned when I was offline about Adidas. Well, we're a global brand. We're one of the biggest clubs in the world. Adidas would make a lot of money from Rangers, from the punters, from the supporters worldwide. But we just play in a league that's difficult to sell. So going back to my original point, it was mentioned. I think the internet, Rangers using that facility, Rangers TV, getting that right, subscribing to Rangers TV. Now, you know, you get your season ticket holders, you don't want to lose the atmosphere at Rangers. Whether that would happen because you were allowing people, that's another debate, because you're allowing people to buy tickets online to watch the game, no matter where you are. It may reduce the capacity of Ibrox, especially for these shitty timings that we're getting nowadays, just to fit into sort of a television, So again, Sunday night against Kilmarnock, sorry, not Kilmarnock, St Johnstone, sorry. I mean, it's dreadful times, all our English and non-Irish sort of a season ticket holder, even all our punters for up north of Scotland that come down for the games week in, week out. How are they meant to get home, with that kind of time? So, and I'm going to talk about Celtic here now. I read it just a couple of weeks ago that their game against Aberdeen on Saturday, which is the flagship game this weekend as far as SPL is concerned, and Celtic refused to move their game, and they forfeited £17,500 because the SFA or whoever it was, the television people, Sky, wanted to move that so it would be on the television for one of the gaps that they had on the late Sunday afternoon, I believe it was. And Celtic lately turned around and said no, because they lost the atmosphere, people would have struggled. So they're looking after their fans. Now, I'm not here to sort of advocate anything that Celtic's doing, which probably seems a fan actually, but, we need to sort of stand up for ourselves when it comes to those kind of things as well. We've got our game on Sunday, again, moved because of television. We don't have any games in midweek, so it makes no difference. But sometimes I just think we need to stick up for ourselves and try and take the SFA, SPFL to a little bit more task, that we get more rights in the viewing figures of how we can earn money through the internet, Rangers TV. There's quite a ways to do it, but we just need to get there.
I think the reason I asked you guys about it is because how are we going to get a very healthy takeover if the leagues are poor? Do you know what I mean? There's not anybody looking at the likes of Hearts or Aberdeen. Hibs have been bought over by Bill Foley, Bournemouth owner, but it's not really working. St Johnstone have got an American owner in. It's not really working. There's various kind of different types of takeover throughout the league, and you look at it and it's not as if you've got a Roman Abramovich coming in buying Hearts and going, I want to split the old firm, because there's no any money there to make a name for yourself, because you're winning, you get about 2.5 million or something for 2.5 million for winning the league. Something like that. It's a guess figure for me, but it's something that silly like that anyway. So right, types of takeover, lads. Majority purchase, a single entity purchase of a majority stake in a club, such as John W. Henry's purchase of Liverpool. Foreign ownership, a club is owned by a foreign entity, such as many of the clubs in European Big Five leagues that are owned by American, Chinese, Saudi Arabia, and Swiss entities. Multi-club ownership, a single entity owns multiple clubs, such as, so that's like your Red Bulls, City Football Group, etc., etc. And then a friendly versus hostile takeover. Both companies agree to terms of the acquisition versus the acquiring company buys a majority of shares without the target company's consent. Right, that's completely confused me. So, Ross, out of these four kind of takeovers, what one would you say would be best for Rangers?
It's hard to say, because like you say, if you've got a majority, if it's a majority of one guy or one company comes in and buys, it depends on what their. I know you can say it for them all. What's their intentions? We're talking about the takeover of Chelsea. What is their intentions of taking over Chelsea? It's to get a big club in London, but they've not run it well. Would you want the same guy coming in, pumping loads of money into Rangers and running it the same way? No. Foreign ownership, like I said earlier on, I've got some issues with, depending on who it is, I've got issues with Americans. I don't think they know how to run clubs properly. I don't think they understand European sport. The Chinese, Chinese money's there, but sometimes is it totally legit? Sometimes there's queries about where the money comes from. The Middle East on Monday, it's just we don't know. It's one of those things. It's easy to say. I think, and it's probably a controversial one, but the multi-club ownership. If we say, for just totally hypothetical scenario, say we had get bought, or somebody took a controlling stake in us from the Red Bull Group. I've seen people in the comments talking about the Red Bull Group, right? 10 years ago, the Red Bull Group would have come in and went, we want to rename Ibrox, you're going to be Red Bull Rangers, you're going to change your trip colour to red and white, and we're going to get rid of this, that, and the next thing. But in the last few years, they've actually been a little bit more accommodating. You've seen they've invested into Leeds. I think if they tried to change the Leeds badge, there would have been riots. I think they'd have went to Austria and tried to burn the headquarters down after the last fiasco, changing the badge. There'd have been riots, but they seem to have maybe been a little bit open to it. I know Leeds is a club that they've kind of yo-yoed over the last few years, so there's potential for money. Are they going to make money here? I don't think so. The only way they're going to make money is if we get routine involvement in Champions League, which gives their brands exposure, and you then get involved in a good, I know we keep talking about player trading models. If that works, you then make money. Rangers, when it's run well, makes money. That's the problem. But it can be proven because Celtic make money. Celtic are run well and Celtic make money. The problem is the issue that Celtic support have got is that the fans expect them to spend the money they've got. But they talk about every year how they've got millions in the bank. They don't owe money. They don't owe debt. They don't have this. They don't have that. If we're run right, we can make money. Our problem is that we're not run right. Every bad mistake we make, we're paying for, and that's how we're now at a stage where we're having to cost cut. If that was the case and we were run properly by people that know how to run a football club within a multi-club system, you could potentially be involved in that and get access to databases, scouting, finance to build.
Ricky, do you think that Rangers should be part of the City Group or the Red Bull Group?
Well, out of the four options you've got there, Scott, that's the one that I would much, to be fair to. It's a bit like the Wetherspoons, really. Every sort of a pub can support each other. So depending on where you sort of sat in the food chain, you had a good academy, you had a lot of good lads. clearly, we've got issues with the standard of our academy. Well, it's the standard of the leagues that the academy players are playing in. They're just not getting tested enough, in my opinion. So the elite of the academy player, before they could make the first team, could go to your India team and buy cities and get some experience before they come back. Your Melbourne Cities who play their games, when we're on their sort of a time off, they're playing because they're opposite sort of side of the world. So there's a lot of advantages to be part of the city group, so to speak. But I've already alluded to the big sort of a sugar daddy. I've already gave you sort of illustrations of when that sugar daddy moves on, the clubs tend to struggle and they never get back to where they were. So again, it's interesting to see how we can attract, as you mentioned, Scotty, how we can attract good investment when we're not. I mean, if it was Adidas that owned us, for example, it would be slightly different because they'd be getting money back from us through all the sort of a revenue we would be buying. But that just doesn't happen. So it comes down to sort of a multimillionaires or businesses or groups of people who want to invest in your club. But to invest in their club, there has to be some return. Do we play outside of Scotland? And I know, again, that's a controversial decision, but there was talk about that a few years ago when the big boys decided that they were going to have this big European league and close it off. Thankfully, that was all vetoed. But at that particular point, we wouldn't have had any option. We'd have to join the Belgian, the Belgian, the Norwegian, the Portuguese, and have this, the Scandinavian teams and have this, whatever it was going to be called. That type of league, albeit it's probably not going to happen, would generate us money because we would then be competing with the best of the rest outside the top 5 leagues. Is it ever going to happen? Well, I'm not saying it's never going to happen because who knows, but we would never be able to generate a sugar daddy, I don't think, whilst we're still playing our football in Scotland. But, Ross is absolutely bang on. We can generate our own money, but we need to get the structure of the club right. The player training model needs to be right. If you look at them across the city, they've made a few millions on several players, and that's just taking them up to they're now a comfortable run football club on the strength of 4 or 5, 6 players who they've managed to move on, who they bought initially for peanuts. That's the area that we need to get right. Go back to Brighton. Their player training model is just second to none. If we can get somewhere kind of close or near to that kind of structure that Brighton have got, then we will see the fruition of that in years to come. But at the moment, we sold Big Bassey for a decent fee. We get next to nothing for a Rebo, considering what I thought he was worth. Patterson got some money in, but those 3 aside, when was the last time we kind of made any decent money on any player? And we've been talking about player training models for the past 4, 5, 6 years, haven't we? To be honest, but I think considering where we came from in 2012, we have got to a UEFA Cup final. So no, it's not the end of our club. But Ross is absolutely right. We could and we should be run a lot better than we are. We just need to get the structure right and get these key appointments correct when we do recruit the next people to these appointments that are vacant at the moment, and let the process take its course. Because if we keep on, moving managers on, we're just going to be back to square one all the time, aren't we? So we need to believe in the process of what Club wants to do, I suppose. But he needs the structure above him to be right, so he's got the 100% support from the right people, and we're all going in the right direction, which we're not at the moment. We're all over the place.
Yeah. There's aspects of I agree with and aspects I disagree with. I do think we're all over the place just now, but I just don't know if this is pending, something's working away in the background, or if it's a board restructure yet again and we're starting from the beginning, so to speak. But for me, it would need to be I think John Henry, when he's been in and what I've seen him do at Liverpool don't have a net spend every season. Liverpool have either break even in the transfer market or through selling youth players. Like, for example, I think they sold Harry Wilson to Fulham 2 years ago for upwards of 25 million. It's just ridiculous money for a youth player. Somebody's played only a handful of first team appearances. Ryan Kent, they get 7 million off of us for Ryan Kent. I just think, I know that's a different level and stuff like that, but guys like John Henry, Tony Bloom, single owner at Brighton, they come in, they put the right people in place to run the club. I mean, Liverpool have got a really, really good structure above running the club. Hence why they've went from Jurgen Klopp into Arne Slot, and you wouldn't even think, take Arsenal and take Man United, for example, if they're Sir Alex, they're still trying to find a decent manager because the wrong structure and they've appointed the wrong people at the wrong times. But Liverpool have just went back, put certain people in place. Brighton as well. Their structure speaks for itself, and that all comes from above. So I would be open to it if it was something similar to that. Multi-club ownership, I'm not interested in it unless Rangers are ready to tap it. Rangers are a bigger club than Manchester City. I'm sorry to say, but the history, the prestige, everything about it. Man City's like a club with an empty soul to me sometimes when you look at their stadium and like a Champions League semi-final and they're not selling out and things like that. It's wild. Red Bull, decent enough, but no unless Rangers are going to be able to tap it, because Rangers are bigger than Leipzig to me. They're bigger than Salzburg. They're bigger than all these teams. So I wouldn't want to see Red Bull coming in and sort of putting us down the food chain a bit and getting drip-fed players like we were off Mike Ashley when we had Haris Vukovic and all these kind of guys coming into the club. You remember them wild loan deals we got when we won the Championship? We got about 10 players or something for Newcastle. We had half of Newcastle's B team. It was wild. I don't want to see anything like that. So that's my 50p's worth. But quickly, how to buy a football club. It's a traditional sale between a buyer and seller, which will involve initial discussions followed by a period of exclusivity to allow the buyer to conduct their due diligence and no negotiations. Due diligence is when a buyer reviews the club to establish the assets. Now, Rangers have got a hell of a lot of assets between Auchenhowie, Ibrox, etc., and evaluate the commercial potential. The commercial potential in Rangers has increased as well. You've got Edmondson House, a sports bar when it's eventually going to be finished. There's an awful lot with Rangers in the surrounding area that James Bisgrove done when he was here to say, you know what, we are a modern club, we are trying to do this, we're doing that. It's an awful lot better now than when it was 10, 15 years ago. So this will involve people touring facilities, i.e. museum, reviewing finance records and deals currently in place, etc. Process usually takes around 3 to 9 months. Right, we'll break it up. Ross, what's your thought in the first kind of 3 bullet points? Obviously, we know there's an awful lot of due diligence, and I think that was mostly put in place after Craig White bought Rangers for £1, wasn't it? Really, let's be honest. I mean, everybody looked at Rangers and thought, right, well, cross Fitpa, we can't see that happen again, so we need to put this in place. What's your thoughts on the first 3 points?
I mean, it probably sums up Scottish football that it's taken something like, you know, the demise of one of its great clubs for these kind of processes to be put into place in the first place. The fact that, you know, you've got guys coming in and they say, who are you? I know you've got the kind of, well, you're talking about the kind of fit and proper and that as well, but if you've got somebody that's willing to buy a football club, you need to make sure and you need to be aware that they can run it properly. And it's in somewhere like Scottish football where there's not a lot of money. And you take an example, like you said, the guy that's just bought St Johnson, the American that's just bought St Johnson.
Aye.
He's not going to be mega minty. They might have a wee bit of money behind him for what he's made in America, but he's not going to be able to fund that himself. What he needs to do is he needs to look at what they've got and how he can contribute it by being smart with his investment. He's not going to get in and be able to say, right, well, St Johnson get 2,000 supporters a week in a 15,000 seater ground, so we make a loss out of policing and all that stuff. That's fine. Is he willing to subsidise that? The losses to keep St Johnson going? That's not doing due diligence. That's just putting money in for the sake of putting money in. You need to be smart about how you do it. We're fortunate that at Rangers we've got, like you say, we've got better assets. We've got more ways to make money, so we should be a more valuable investment opportunity for people to come in. And but like you say, it depends on the guy or the person, the company, whatever, and how they're willing to put their money in. So it's I know it's all hypothetical, but
Aye.
like I say, we've got assets. Ibrox, you've got 45,000 season ticket holders every season, guaranteed revenue. Guaranteed revenue for shirt sales, which is why I think we were saying earlier about Adidas or Nike or whatever. You can, if you like the strips or not, it doesn't matter. We make these companies money. Edmondson House makes money. The sports bar, when it opens, will make money. Stadium tours, all these things, they all make money. If you can work your investment into it properly, then that's proper due diligence and saying that, can I make this work for me and make it work for the club?
I definitely, that's exactly what my point was, Ross. Like, I know we are, like, the landscape for us in terms of playing in Scottish football might not be great, but as a club, I think we need to be proud of what we've done in recent seasons to try and maximise our profit avenues. And I think the club have done it fairly well. Like, building a museum was a stroke of genius. It was an absolute stroke of genius. Like, all that type of stuff all helps. They're building a community around about Ibrox that's going to churn out money eventually. Ricky, what's your? Obviously, I'm not going to redo the next two bits. The next two bits are just about SFA as a fit and proper test. Somebody probably made it up when they were steaming and on the SFA. What's your thoughts on a kind of the last 2 points?
Well, the second to last one there, you're looking on the Chelsea. I mean, I think they went for £2 billion, didn't they? Something ridiculous.
4.25 billion. Aye.
Yeah.
Wild money.
They do say if somebody was going to come in with an offer to buy you a club, we're worth about £150 million. Now, you mentioned Manchester City there, how we're a far bigger club than them. Globally, I totally agree with you, mate, but we're nowhere near the size of Manchester City when it comes to finances, mate.
When it comes to finances, I completely agree.
This is reality of it, mate. There's very little clubs in the world that are bigger than Rangers.
Right.
Well, do you know what I give you that? I mean, globally we're an institution, but we are peddling in the backwaters of Scottish football, and we won't ever be able to be as big as Manchester City and teams like that. I mean, Brentford are probably big. The money they're turning over. It puts us into the lad who were meant to be coming in. He ended up going to Norwich. He's went down there because Norwich can give him more money. I mean, come on. I mean, we Norwich against us, but when you're talking today's day and age, it all comes down to money. People who play for our jersey know exactly what it's like, and they love it. And anybody who's been there will never badmouth our club, or very rarely badmouth our club, because we all know what it's like, and they know what it's like to play for Glasgow Rangers. But when it comes to the kind of bidding type thing, mate, I don't think we would ever get a bidder, because I don't see that many people who want to invest in Rangers. Chelsea are a different scenario. They're a London club playing in the richest league in the world, which guarantees millions a year just through Sky Sports. Not to forget all the rest of the sponsorships that comes their way. So when investors invest in leagues above ours, they're getting money back because it's guaranteed money back. I don't think you can guarantee a great deal back in Scottish football unless you run the club well and you get that player training well, and then you start hitting sort of a profits where then these people can then start seeing a little bit of profit. But then that then becomes the business model, and then a little bit like the PLC, they never spend it because the people have invested want that money. They want the money back. So eventually, unless you've got a Rangers group of, or core group of people running the club who are wealthy business, which we currently have, and bearing in mind Gilligan doesn't want that job permanently. Right. George Latham has not come out and said he'd stand to be the chairman. So who's going to be your chairman? Who's going to come in and take over our club? Who's going to replace Bisgrove, the CEO? So we're in a really kind of sticky situation at the moment about who comes in to be our chairman to get this. And I would just like to, well, maybe I'm just being pessimistic, but I'd love to think that behind the scenes at the moment, there is something going on. And I know you're against this, Scott, and again, maybe controversial. What's so wrong with Dave King coming in and steadying the ship for a couple of years? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I put that out to you because I know there's a lot of people against Dave King being the chairman of our club. Dave King did a good job for us, albeit it didn't end very well. But we've got to take our hats off and thank him for a lot of things that he done. Mike Ashley, you know, and is he potentially the man to come in, find investors? I mean, he's a multi-millionaire who has lots of contacts across the world. I'm not sure that our UK, Scottish-based businessmen maybe have the contacts that Dave King's got. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not totally against Dave King coming back in as our chairman, which I know several Rangers supporters are, and I understand that. But I wouldn't say no to it, Paul.
I know where you're coming from. And that night I come on the Q&A, I wasn't against Dave King coming back. What I was against was the way he'd went about it, bumping his gums through different media outlets.
He's a passionate Rangers man, mate, who sees that in his own mind, he sees that there's things not right, and if his way of dealing with it is speaking and hang your dirty washing, and I get that, we're Rangers, we shouldn't be doing that, but if that's the way for him to get recognised and be voted in, but it's not going to happen because it will never go to the vote because there's too many of the percentage of our members won't allow it to happen. But I'm certainly wouldn't be against it. Why don't they all just get together and bring Rangers up together?
Aye, I know. It was him that put all these investors in place, and whatever's happened behind the scenes, it's done as far as I'm concerned. And I just didn't like the way he went about it. If you want to get back into Rangers, lift the phone and ask a question. You don't need to come out and add to a pile of hysteria that was already there. It just made the situation 10 times worse. Yeah, That's what annoyed me about it. It wasn't that I don't want them in. I think Dave King could come in and put a footballing structure in place, but it would also get us into a lot of trouble with companies as well. We've just finished cleaning up his mess for the last time he left with his court battles and all that kind of stuff. So, as I say, Ricky, I wouldn't be against it, but he's got to do it in the right manner. John Gilligan was spot on when he came out in his press conference and he said, like, date behind the scenes, lift the phone. You don't need to come out and say I want this and I want that. Get on top spot, stir it up. To me, it was just out with a wooden spoon to make a noise because there's been nothing since. You know what I mean?
I don't disagree with you, but I just, for me, for John Gilligan to turn and say he doesn't want the job permanently, that's alarming as well, mate. Oh,
definitely, it is. But I would also say that when John Gilligan picks a CEO, it's the CEO's job to put a foundation in at Ibrox that fits everything. To put a model in place, like i.e. Brighton, because we've got really, really good forward-thinking guys in Nils Koppinen. He's not really made a bad signing yet, if you think about it. There's a couple that are maybe questionable, but the recruitment's been so much better than what it was. We can't really argue with any of that. So there's certain aspects of clubs that are really, really good.
He's hitting the right age group because that training model, absolutely.
Aye. He's turning us into a modern kind of forward-thinking football club. And that's what's needed. But this appointment of the CEO is massive. We're just going to wrap up there, guys. Ross, come to you for any final thoughts, mate.
Obviously, it's one of those things that I think the King debate we can have. The only debate I think we've had more than the Dessers debate or the Tavernier debate. It's just one you could have every week. And you'll have different opinions. I'm sorry, I need to go against Ricky. I just don't think he's worth the washing the dirty washing that he comes with. He just seems to cause trouble. And I'm not saying he's not a Rangers man, but John Bennett's a Rangers man, George Letham's a Rangers man, Dougie Park's a Rangers man. It doesn't always mean they're the right people. No. You need to get the right people, regardless of whether they had a season ticket or anything. So what's right for excuse me. So what's right for Rangers?
Aye, definitely. Ricky, any final thoughts, mate?
No, but I just want our club from top to bottom just to get this structure right. If there's going to be some sort of investment, which is rumoured to be, whether it's the case, I'm not sure. But my God, I'd love it to happen. And I just want Rangers to get the structure right, so everybody can be in unity and unisons, get behind the team. We are board that are all pulling in the right direction. That's all we're after. and just move forward, you know, and all is one, you know. I mean, we see where we go, but at the moment there's just too many disjointed disconnects that we need to fix. But thanks for tonight, guys. Thoroughly enjoyed that, and I'll catch up with you next week sometime, I'm sure.
Cool. Thanks for coming on, boys. Right, everybody, that wraps up the Wednesday night podcast. The guys will be back tomorrow night at 9 o'clock looking at potential director of football candidates. Instead of sticking about into a club, we're trying to come up with solutions to help fix the problems. I personally think that this is quite an exciting time with a blank canvas in front of John Gilligan, Philippe Clement and Nils Cotton. They can then look to put something in place that is going to bring a glory days back to Rangers, put the right footballing-minded people in charge and drive us forward. But apart from that, thank you for joining us. Splash that like and subscribe button, and remember, every night is Rangers Journal night. Good night.